Hi everybody, Emily Rendall-Araujo here. I'm the Executive Director at the Above and Beyond Children's Museum. Our team is so bummed that we cannot have you here into the museum to play with us right now, but it's just better for everybody to stay at home and not share germs at this time. So since we can't all play together at the museum, our staff is going to do some videos to read books to you virtually. So right now, I'm hanging out next to our Kohler generator. I've got our hand sanitizer right behind me, and I'm gonna read the ABCs of engineering. So mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, maybe help yourself to a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, glass of water, a little walk around the house. And kiddos, let's learn about engineering. A is for amplifier. An amplifier makes a signal bigger. An amplifier has an input and an output. The input is a signal, like music from an electric guitar, and the output is the same signal with more power. The increase in power is called gain. Turn up the volume, turn up the gain. B is for battery. A battery gives power to electric circuits. Batteries store energy when not in use. And when they're connected to a closed electric circuit, they force electric charges to move, creating a current. Not all batteries look the same, but they all do the same thing to charges. So they are drawn with the same symbol in circuit diagrams. C is for Carnot engine. The Carnot engine is a model of an ideal heat engine. Heat engines use temperature differences to do work by moving energy from hot to cold. Engines in real life waste energy because they are not perfectly efficient. The most efficient engine we can imagine, though we cannot build it, is called a Carnot engine. D is for dielectric. A dielectric is a material that can be polarized. All material is made of charged particles. Dielectrics are special because the charges in them can be lined up by an electric field that's polarized. The green dielectric has all the charges lined up because there's an electric field in the direction of the arrow. E is for electricity. Electricity is the flow of electrons. Electricity is a convenient way we can transfer energy. The amount of flowing electrons is called a current, and how fast they are flowing is called voltage. When something gets in the way of the electrons, it's called resistance. F is for force. Pink is push and purple is pull. A force is any push or pull. Gravity pulls on this bridge, but tension in the cables keeps the bridge standing strong. There are only 4 fundamental forces in nature: strong nuclear force, electromagnetic force, weak nuclear force, and gravity. But they build up to make effective forces that are easy to see, such as friction, tension, shear, and torsion. G is for gear. A gear is a mechanical part that transfers force. Gears come in many shapes and sizes and have little bumps all around their outer edges called teeth. The teeth on multiple gears have to match up to transfer force from one gear to another. Bikes have gears of different sizes to help make them go fast or to make it easier to go up a hill. H is for hydraulics. A hydraulic machine transfers force using liquid. When force pushes liquid into a container at one end, the liquid will push out the other end of the container. If you push the liquid in the thinner tube down a long distance, you can lift a heavy object in the wider tube up a short distance. That's a mechanical advantage. is for inductor. An inductor is a device that stores energy in a magnetic field. An inductor is made by wrapping wire around magnetic material, like a piece of iron. It can store energy by changing electricity into a magnetic field and back. Two inductors near each other can transfer electric energy from one circuit to the other without even touching. J is for jig. A jig helps keep parts of a project in place. When a project has a lot of parts, keeping the parts in the right spots might require a special tool called a jig. A jig can be small, like tape, or large, like a table clamp. Jigs also help hold things that are very hot or have glue that needs to dry. K is for keystone. A keystone is the top block of an arch. The keystone is the most important part of an arch because it keeps the other stones from falling down. A keystone is shaped like a trapezoid with the widest part at the top so it doesn't slide out of the arch. Arches can hold up heavy ceilings. L is for lever. A lever is a simple machine used to increase force. A lever can be used to lift heavy things. It can also be used as a scale to measure things like weight. A lever pivots on a spot called the fulcrum. A seesaw is a great example of a lever. Do you ever play on the seesaw at the park? M is for multimeter. A multimeter is a tool used to measure electric circuits. Multimeters can measure voltage, current, resistance, and more. Engineers use multimeters by connecting probes and touching different parts of an electric circuit. Multimeters can help find problems in a circuit. N is for nanotube. Carbon nanotubes are light, strong shapes made of carbon atoms. Nanotubes are shaped like tiny straws that can have walls as thin as one carbon atom thick. If you try to stretch them, they are stronger than any other material we know. They can also be used to make the darkest black paint. O is for ohm. The unit of measure for electrical resistance is called ohm. Resistors slow down or control the flow of electric currents. Many appliances around the house are resistors, such as light bulbs, stovetops, and heaters. 1 ohm is denoted as 1 omega. An ohm can be measured using a multimeter. Remember we just talked about multimeters? That was our M word. P is for pipette. A pipette is a lab tool that helps measure the volume of a liquid. Pipettes are often used by biological and chemical engineers to move small amounts of liquids. Most pipettes do this by creating a vacuum inside a tube that can draw up the liquid. Pipettes can measure amounts as small as 1/100th of a drop of water. Q is for QR code. A QR code is a two-dimensional barcode. QR means quick response. These codes are a great way for engineers to quickly pass information about the tasks they have to do for a project, what parts they need to test, or anything else. Even if the QR code becomes damaged, it can still be scanned and the information decoded. R is for requirements. Engineering projects need requirements to make sure everything works correctly. Requirements are a way of telling other people on the team what different parts of the project they need to do. Then, When there are multiple engineers or teams working on a project, they know exactly how to measure when their part is done. S is for screw. A screw is a simple machine used to hold things together. When a screw turns, it changes its rotation into straight motion. The spiral ridges along the side of the screw grip the material and help it stay in place. Screws can be made of steel, iron, brass, or even plastic. I bet you have screws at home. T is for tolerance. Tolerance shows how much wiggle room there is. Making parts perfectly is not possible, so not every cut or mold will be exactly what is needed. Tolerance says how much a part can differ from the goal. If a beam is too long, it might not fit, and if it is too short, the building might fall down. Only parts within a project's tolerances can be used. U is for units. Meter, yard, and a foot. Units help communicate meaningful measurements. Many different units help define different quantities like distance or time. Sometimes distance is measured in centimeters and sometimes in inches. Temperature has many kinds of units too, like Fahrenheit, Celsius, and Kelvin. V is for viscosity. The viscosity of a fluid measures how thick it is. High viscosity fluids are honey, glue, and maple syrup. Real sticky, right? Water and milk are very low viscosity fluids. In extreme conditions, there exist superfluids that have no viscosity and climb the walls of their containers all by themselves. W is for wrench. A wrench is a hand tool that helps turn nuts and bolts. Nuts and bolts are called fasteners and are used to hold things together. A wrench is a lever that gives a mechanical advantage on the nut or bolt. This means it makes twisting the nut or bolt easier than doing it by hand. Remember, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. I bet you have wrenches at home too. Is for xenon. Xenon is a chemical that helps make bright camera flashes. Xenon is a noble gas, which means it does not react easily with other chemicals. Chemical engineers use xenon to make lots of useful things like light bulbs, light up signs, and anesthesia. It's found in very small amounts in the air we breathe. Y is for yield. Yielding is when something doesn't bounce back. When stress is applied to a material, it begins to stretch, but it will bounce back when the stress is removed. If a stick is bent too far, something changes in the wood and it will not return to its original shape. It has yielded. Keep going and it will eventually break. Has that ever happened with any of your toys? Finally, Z is for zoning. Zoning helps local government, city planners, and civil engineers plan how cities should grow. To make sure everyone living in a city is happy, zoning is used to make rules about where certain types of businesses and houses can be built. As the number of people in a city increases, the zoning can be changed to make sure it's a great city to live in. Thanks, everybody. That was the ABCs of Engineering by Chris Ferrie and Dr. Sarah Kaiser. If you think this book was fun, you can always try to check it out from the library when it reopens, or you can buy it, probably on a place like Amazon.com. Thanks, everybody.